Welcome to the Dirt Broadcast. Dig into the bottom of every situation to get to the truth. Here's your host, Jason Mills.
Hello, folks. Hope everybody's doing well today. This is our first podcast in a little while, and I had to work out some kinks here. So sorry for being a little bit late, but normally we'll be 8 o'clock on every Tuesday night. Remember to like, share, comment. We appreciate it. I'll try to keep up with the comments as they come in. Hopefully everybody out there is doing very, very well. Again, welcome to the Dirt Podcast. We will go through a lot of stuff tonight, but it's good to see everybody joining us back on the podcast. I say us, it's my podcast. I just got to get out of that habit. Anyways, so while we're here, again, I want to thank you for joining us on this premiere of the Dirt Podcast. Thank you for watching and interact with me as much as you can. We're going to do things a little bit differently, but a lot the same as the previous podcast. But we'll go through some of that here in just a minute. Just to catch everybody up, I need to move these up here so I can see if somebody messages me or something, or I ain't gonna be able to watch it. So my normal studio I normally use is a little cold and not set up correctly, so I'm in my dining room. So you might hear a dog walk by, or who knows what goes by. Just letting you know. But again, look, I'm kind of just stalling for a few minutes just so some more people can join us. So if that sounds like I don't know what I'm talking about, that's why. But anyways, again, welcome to the Dirt Podcast. This is a premiere of the Dirt Podcast with your host, Jason Mills, and that's me. Hopefully you enjoyed the intro there. I had a band actually write that little jingle there for me, and then my friend Eddie actually did the voice, and so we were very thankful, very happy that they did that for me. I also have a closing, so and that is exclusively the Dirt Podcast theme song. So that's made specifically for this podcast. So I say that because I don't want the Book Face or any of these other ones we're streaming on to come after me and say copyright and all this stuff. That is my music. So good evening. Again, welcome to the Dirt Podcast. Remember to like, share, comment. We appreciate it. All right, we're starting to get some people climb on there, so we'll go ahead and get started. Now, first and foremost, I know y'all have not seen me on the podcast in quite some time, and there's reasons for that. I won't go into a lot of them, but we'll talk about that here in just a minute for just a little bit. But first and foremost, 2024 was not a very good year for me. Most of you that follow me on my personal page know that my mother passed away in July. She was killed by the doctors at Tenova North, and as well, and I'll go to my grave with that opinion. So this podcast from now until whenever will be dedicated to my mother. She was one of my strongest supporters, and the things that I was doing, and the podcast and running for office and everything else that I did, My mother went in for a routine procedure. She got a blood clot and on her heart, and had to fly her from one hospital to another. And that continued on with giving her some medication she was allergic to, and a number of other things that happened. And ultimately, she passed on. So that's the story behind that. And like I said, I miss my mother dearly. Think about her daily, and they wouldn't have poked that hole in her heart, she'd still be here with me today. So been hard for me, but yeah. So again, this podcast is dedicated to my mother, and her memory. So, and there goes my Great Dane walking through the dining room as we speak. So she's got to be nosy. All right, so that's one thing. So I got that out of the way. Number 3 on my list, I want to be perfectly clear. This podcast is no way, shape, or form controlled by or necessarily related to, and not necessarily, it is not related to anything that Stephanie Davis is doing. She can do her own podcast and all that kind of thing. No hard feelings to that or anything like that. I just want to be clear. I've been asked by several people, are we affiliated as far as podcast goes? No, I am not. And in that same breath, for the other side of all those people, I am not necessarily affiliated with the Union News Leader either. I've been asked that. Again, this is my podcast. I will say and do what I want. And Marty, I know you're on here because you said hi. No, offense to anybody. But that's just I want that to be clear to everybody out there. That this is my opinion. This is my podcast. This is not affiliated with the coalition. This is not affiliated with Stephanie. This is not affiliated with any of those kinds of things. There's a reason I've not been on these podcasts, and nearly, I guess April-ish will be a year. So I took a little break, and I want to come back, and I want to come back on my own. I want to come back not being necessarily told to be politically correct and don't say this and don't say that and that kind of thing. You better don't. But no, I'm not trying to here's the deal. Bottom line, there's some things that me and the coalition folks are, and I'm not saying they're bad folks, so don't take it that way either. There's some things that we might agree on and we might fight together on, and there's some things that we might disagree on. Same thing with the UNL and Marty or any of those. We might disagree or we might fight together. You never know what's going to happen down the road. I know everybody has their opinion on both things, right? The UNL and the coalitions. Look here. Bottom line, this is the Dirt Podcast. This is my podcast. And I let me give you a little bit of background why I called it the Dirt, okay? Because we're going to get down in the nitty gritty, right? We're going to tell the truth. We're going to dig for the truth, just like my opening says. We're going to find out what's going on, and this is going to be uncensored, no holds barred. We're going to say what it is. And one of the things that we're going to add to the podcast is I'm going to have, if there's time and the podcast doesn't go really long, I'm going to have a call-in session. I don't have screeners. So if somebody calls in, and I would appreciate if when we do that, if you would kind of keep it, kind of clean. But I don't have screeners. So what you say is what you say. And so I want everybody out there to be aware of that when we start doing those call-ins. The language might get out of hand or whatever. I'm going to try to control that as much as possible. But again, it's just me doing this podcast. There's nobody else here with me. There's no screeners. There's none of that. Okay. So, like I said, we've got a number of different things that we're going to try to do. And we're going to give it our best shot. Now, what this podcast is not going to be. This podcast is not going to be a kissy suck up to the powers that be. Those of you that know me know better. I'm going to hold everybody's feet to the fire. I'm going to call it like it is. I'll say what the truth is, and you might get my opinion on some things. I do appreciate all of you that are watching. I appreciate all those out there that got me those 100 folks I needed on Facebook so quickly. I had them within 2 days, so I greatly appreciate that. But again, going back to what this podcast is and it is not. This podcast, again, is not affiliated to anybody but me. Sometimes I get heated, and sometimes I might not be able to control myself. And I don't have anybody here telling me to calm down anymore. So you never know what's going to happen on this podcast. So this is the Dirt Podcast. So I can't explain it any better than that. So I hope that clears everything up, and quite appropriately clears mud. Again, no affiliation with anybody else. For all those folks out there that are wondering, this is me on my own doing my thing. So you can follow the Dirt Podcast on Facebook, obviously, under the Dirt Podcast page. You could also follow it on YouTube. YouTube channel is also the Dirt Podcast. And Rumble is also, the Rumble is the Dirt Podcast UC. So if you have any of those, if you'd rather watch it on one of those channels, feel free to, subscribe to those, and we'll get some more out there as we can. I do have X on here too, but apparently I have to pay more money for X, and I didn't do that today. So, but everything's money. But I hope everybody enjoys the podcast. Feel free to comment. I will get to your comments as fast as I possibly can. I've got 2 phones and the computer here that I'm trying to watch for comments and everything. So just bear with me as we go through. Like I said, I'm not in my normal setup, so I feel a little awkward. But got that. Another thing I want to get out here before we're going to talk about the county commission meeting tonight, and but one of the other things I want to talk about before we get there is school bullies. Okay, you got school bullies out here, and I know we've talked about it many times with the school bullies and that kind of thing. My situation currently isn't a child bullying another child. My situation currently is a teacher bullying a child, and it's ridiculous. Teachers are supposed to be better than that. I understand that this particular teacher is young himself, but let me tell you, when it's supposed to be somebody that you're supposed to be looking up to and trying to learn from, and all you do is up and all these other kinds of things, you're going to lose your respect of your kids in the classroom. Not only that, you're going to lose the respect of the parents that bring those kids to your classroom. And as you go through all that, you're going to find that you're going to have more parents like me that are going to become more vocal. You're going to become more angry. And so this happened. And I called today to talk to a principal and to try to set up a meeting. And I have a discussion about this teacher bullying a student. And I was told no. So we'll see how that goes. Maybe I'll get a phone call tomorrow and maybe the tone will change or what have you. But I'm not happy about it. And you know, it would be one thing if it was a one-time situation, but this has been going on all school year. And quite frankly, I am tired of it. And so I don't know, maybe that teacher's watching this podcast. And if you are, let me say that this is me putting you on notice that I'm gonna hold your feet to the fire and you either straighten up or, I'll do everything possible to make sure that you don't disrespect a student anymore. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Again, all you folks out there, I don't know if you're commenting on another thing other than Facebook, because I'm still learning this computer program. So bear with me as I check these other things occasionally. So last night, as some of you know, maybe not everybody, but some of you know, Union County had its January County Commission meeting. And obviously, well, you can't see my paper. That's another one of these things. But I got a paper here with all my notes. I've been to some county commission meetings with the time that I've been away, but I've not been to every one of them like I was going to, but that's going to change now. So all you county commissioners out there and everybody else out there, this is me also putting you all on notice that I am back. I know you enjoyed your break with me gone, but I am back. Now, let's jump right in. Again, folks, like, share, comment. We greatly appreciate it. I'll answer any questions you have as quickly as I can, and that kind of thing. So, anyways, back to this county commission meeting last night. Let's see. Let's get down to basically the county mayor's report. There's several things on it that I made note of. One of those things was Mayor Bailey is applying for a grant or several grants, and one of those grants is to build some ballparks or ball fields behind Wilson Park. If you remember, back when I was doing my other podcast, they were talking about possibly building the jail back there, but that's changed. He's also trying to get a grant to do the Blue Mud boat launch, do some paving and some parking lot striping and all that kind of good stuff. If you remember, it seems like forever ago, nearly a year ago, we were talking about these same things. And another grant that he's trying to do is to get a new EMS station in Manorville. If you remember back when I was doing the other podcast, they applied for a grant and was denied to try to get an EMS station at Manorville and the chapel. And so he's decided that they got denied because they were trying to do both and it was too expensive. And so he's decided he was just going to try to do the EMS station in Manorville now. Some other things I noticed on the county mayor's report, the jail committee is trying to move ahead with a contract on the Lewis Hubs property, and there's a whole ball of wax that you have to dig through on that whole thing. She doesn't actually own the property; some other folks do, and there's a minor involved, and so we're not going to dig through all that tonight because we have so much other stuff to get through. But the jail committee, for the most part, wants to purchase that property, and if they move forward with that property, she's also going to donate 2 more acres with the stipulation that a drug rehab, will have to be built on it and named after her daughter who passed away from her addiction. So there's that. Some other things. The Big Ridge Community Center, the property is finally purchased. Again, folks, a lot of this is the same things I was talking about almost a year ago. The Big Ridge Community Center property is purchased. Again, not the best property they should have purchased for that, and all that kind of good stuff. But it is what it is. They done bought it, so now they're working on trying to figure out how to build a building on it and all that kind of stuff. Again, all this money for this came from ARPA funds and all this kind of stuff from back in COVID, and they've been searching for a long time for property, blah, blah, blah. Speedwell Community Center, they bought or looking at property that apparently didn't perk, but they've decided they still like the property, and they are going to come up with another plan as far as, I'm assuming, septic or something else, some other plan to be able to do that property in Speedwell for a community center. So stay tuned for that. Those are the county projects. Another thing they talked about is the Luttrell Industrial Park. If you remember, again, when I was doing the other podcast, there was a private gentleman who wanted to purchase the Luttrell Industrial Park and asked for a price from the county. And also the Luttrell mayor also asked to purchase the industrial park because he still wants to move forward with the ball fields for the kids and that kind of thing. The sports thing that Union County was supposed to do and dropped the ball and backed out of. So anyways, so the mayor finally got an estimate on what that property appraised for, and that appraised for $275,000. So I guess they will reach out to those folks to see if they're still interested and possibly discuss with county commission at a later date on possibly selling the Luttrell Industrial Park to those people. Also, now that KUB is here in Union County, pretty much everywhere, Mayor Bailey has decided all county buildings will now have KUB fiber internet as soon as they can get all that hooked up and worked out. And I believe he's also trying to get Wi-Fi installed in the community centers and that kind of thing. So that's a good thing as far as the Wi-Fi goes. Community centers. That's last I heard. I don't remember him saying that last night. He might have, but I know we talked about it once upon a time. One of the sad things that, well, we'll get to that in a minute. One of the other things that happened, the first $9 million for the new, yes, I said $9 million for the new middle school uh, was taken care of, and he bragged a lot on the interest rate. He thought it was 3.6, but apparently it's 3.45%. And that bond rate was a double A negative, which is the same bond rate that Knox County gets. And so it's a long way, lots of millions of dollars still to come on building that new middle school. But your first $9 million bond has been purchased for it. Gnat flying in my face. The first $9 million bond has been purchased for that. Those folks that live around Walker Ford and Highway 61 or at least travel through there in the near future, you will be getting a new 3-way stop. And hopefully that will take care of some of the car accidents and things like that happen over there. They did get TDOT and the Union County Highway Department kind of work together to come up with a plan, and they're going to get that taken care of. So I know we had a school bus and ambulance or some EMS folks get hit over there and that kind of thing. So that's a good thing for the county. We'll give kudos where kudos need to be given. So for those folks that worked on that, we appreciate that. Thank you for trying to solve that problem over there in that intersection. I know it could be dangerous. I actually used to own the store over there, and so we and that's been years ago, but we've seen plenty of accidents over there even then. So so look out for that to be coming soon. I don't know if they're like just going to put up signs or they're going to have to do some construction or what they're going to have to do over there, but just be aware that will be coming in the near future. All right, let's see. One of the other things that I was looking forward to, and it got pushed off till next month, was hearing about fiber internet for those of us out here in Big Ridge and Speedwell. There was a person from Scott County Telephone that is going to be doing the fiber internet for us folks out here. But he had to be in the hospital with his father, I believe they said. So prayers going out to for that family. So we didn't get to hear about that, but that because mine sucks. Middle school construction updates. There wasn't really any. They weren't there. County sheriff's report. Sheriff was there, but he didn't have a report. So there was a discussion on the Steiner property. Those of you that know what the Steiner property is, it's across the street from the courthouse. If you go by there, that building is no longer there. Now it's just dirt. And then that kind of thing. So they talked about what they were going to do to that. And if you remember, when I was doing the other podcast, we were talking about this. And at the time, they were talking about doing a parking garage and that kind of thing. I guess they've changed their mind on that, and they're just going to pave it. And the estimate to pave that property is $79,000. the mayor asked for $100,000 so they could put some lighting on there, slope it the correct way, and put some other things on there so that it didn't wash out and that kind of thing on the bottom end where it kind of goes downhill, if you know about that area over there. And Eddie Simpson made a motion and Kenny seconded it, so that passed. So there's $100,000 of your hard-earned tax money going over there to pave that parking lot at the Steiner property. Another thing that we'll give kudos out, the Rush Strong building up in the chapel. There's a new roof on it. It's been painted. Road Superintendent Deb Cox is doing the driveway and helping with trying to get that straightened out. And all the windows have to be replaced or are being replaced. And those windows, with being a historic building and that kind of thing, those windows have to be redone in a certain way and all kinds of things. The folks up there in the chapel have been working real hard to restore this building, right? And so we'll give them tons of credit for all their efforts. And they actually got all the windows paid for, and they got those paid for not with taxpayer money, but they actually got folks to donate money for each window, and perhaps they're going to put their name on there, donate it by, and blah, blah, blah on there perhaps, and get those windows replaced. So good job, folks, out there in the chapel and everybody else that's involved in trying to get that building back to where it needs to be. I love historic buildings and just trying to keep them as original as possible and that kind of thing. So good job, folks. All right, let's see. Another thing that was discussed was, we're going to get to the good stuff in a minute. I'm trying to get some of this other stuff out of the way. I like to tell the whole meeting and just not bits and pieces of it, just because I don't want to be accused of nothing. Randy Turner actually asked the county commission, which he didn't necessarily have to do, but he did his due diligence and trying to do the right thing and informing county commission what was going on. Randy Turner's office is reducing his staff by 1 employee. He said with all the computer programs that they have available to them now and all these kinds of things that he didn't necessarily need the extra employee. However, he is wanting to use the salary that 1 employee would have got to increase the remaining employees by $3.15 per hour, and that's still saving money in his budget. And so Gerald Simmons made the motion. Kenny seconded that. That passed, and all county commissioners voted yes on that. Another thing that was brought up was the opioid situation, and all the county got settlement about the opioid crisis, and if you know all that and you heard about that on the news, those kinds of things. So with that being done, one of the things that Judge Patterson has done is set up the drug court and that kind of thing, and also have Miss Samantha Brantley Smith has been heavily involved in doing a lot of that and trying to do some recovery programs and that kind of thing. So again, we'll give kudos to her and all those. So being in this opioid situation, there's an opioid board and the whole thing, right? And so Miss Samantha Brantley Smith is going to have a office in the old jail, which is Travis Patterson's office. However, Travis is moving out. It's actually, I guess, his dad's building, and they're going to, and county commission approved $1,300 a month rent. That's including the internet and the rent and that kind of thing. It's going to be $15,000 over the course of the contract. However, that money comes out of the opioid fund and is not coming out of your tax money, which I like as well. So everybody knows that the opioid epidemic, pandemic, whatever you want to call it, is hurting a lot of families. It's something that I think Union County has needed something like this for a long time. It was mentioned last night that maybe if we had some of these programs in place years ago, that maybe we wouldn't need to be building a new jail. I don't remember who made that comment, but somebody made that comment last night, and I thought it was kind of appropriate. Union County is behind and doing some of the things for the people of the county, the citizens of the county, that they should have been looking into long ago. But again, I know that funding is funding and that kind of thing. And this opioid funding just came, and they got that funding from, all these lawsuits they had against these pharmacies and all those kinds of things. And Food City got hit with a big settlement, and all these places got, had to pay millions and millions of dollars for their part in the opioid epidemic. So again, I think it's a good thing as long as it doesn't, get corrupted like a lot of things do here in Union County. So I think Miss Samantha Brantley Smith will do a good job out there. And there's another person going to help her and that kind of thing. She's been doing a lot of good things. So keep it up. And, if anything I could ever do, if you want to come on the podcast and talk about what you're doing out there and what your plans are, hit me up. And I know when you first started trying to do some of this stuff, we talked and I helped you out back then. So feel free to reach out and we'll do what we can. We got some folks back. Jeanette, Cynthia, how y'all doing? Been missing you. Thanks for welcoming me back. Thanks for coming on the podcast. We appreciate it. Oh, let's see. Get through some of this other little stuff. One of the other things that I want to brag on is TK's, the food truck, the TK's did a benefit. He wanted to raise money for the fire department's rescue squad, and all that kind of good stuff, and give as much money as he possibly could raise to each of the fire departments, and in honor of his son. The only stipulations to that was those fire departments and such had to come back in January and explain what they did with the money. And so TK's raised over $3,000 each. And it was way more than 3,000. I just wrote 3,000 just because it was easy. Over $3,000 for each one of the fire departments. And so just to give you a rundown, Sharps Chapel purchased some rescue equipment, like saws and stuff like that, for their fire department. Luttrell purchased some nozzles that they were in bad need of. And those things are expensive if you have any idea as far as fire departments goes. Yes, it's a wonderful thing TK's did for the firefighters. Absolutely. Paulette has spent $455 of their money for O-rings for their O2 bottles. That's their oxygen. And when they go in the building, they got to have these things, right? Very, very important to be able to breathe. But the rest of their money, they are actually have earmarked it, and they're going to use it for a match for a forestry grant to purchase some multi-purpose turnout gear. And you say, well, if you remember, they just purchased turnout gear like a year ago or whatever it was when they got their last money and that kind of thing. Well, this multi-purpose gear is going to be used so they don't tear up the other gear when they have to do, forestry jobs, brush fires, and all these other kinds of things. They could use this turnout gear as opposed to their normal turnout gear that they need for like house fires and that kind of thing. So it's going to help them from having to wear out those two types of gear faster than they necessarily need to, because those things are expensive, folks. Northeast spent $3,200 on, or over $3,200 on tires for their engine, and they also purchased, which again I'll give credit where credit is due. Northeast Fire did an excellent thing for the county. They purchased what is called a EV blanket, and they have agreed to let any fire department in the entire county use this blanket if they need it. They just have to call and request it, and Northeast Fire Department will be on the way with it. And if you don't know what that means, an EV blanket, all these electric vehicles out there that don't have a gas engine in them anymore and that kind of thing. Well, you can't spray water on electricity, and so this EV blanket, the only thing you can do to put out an electric fire or electric car fire like that, for the most part, is to smother it. And so this blanket covers the vehicle and smothers the fire, as opposed to, like I said, you can't put water on the electric vehicles. So again, they could have used the money and said, hey, we bought it, y'all should have bought your own. But Northeast said, this is for the entire county. If you need it, let's use it. And so thanks, Northeast, for looking out for everybody else. We appreciate it. The other rescue squad, the other fire departments weren't there, so we don't know what they used their money on. So that's all we have on that. Back up for a minute. There was a meeting before the county commission meeting, the ethics committee meeting. Y'all know I'm a biased person as far as the ethics committee, but so they had a meeting. They voted to elect Sydney Jesse as the chair for the ethics committee, and the vice chair, Lynn Beeler, and the secretary is Charlie Hamilton, and he's a school board member. If you know who Charlie is a good guy. But they also pretty much, and Mayor Bailey pretty much made it clear that it doesn't matter what the ethics committee does. They have no power. They can't really do anything other than investigate whatever a person's claim is, and that's it. And so basically, in Union County, the way the ethics committee is set up is absolutely 100% worthless. And yes, I'm speaking from experience. If you remember way back when I was running for office, I filed an ethics complaint. Uh, this is boring. I'm sorry you don't have to watch it. But I appreciate you watching it. Um, I'm just going over what happened in the county commission meeting. Sometimes these podcasts are about that. Sometimes they're not. We're going to talk about all kinds of things. But if you remember back when I filed my ethics complaint, I had video of the situation. I had pictures and videos and all the proof, and and I was told that I didn't have enough evidence. So, the ethics committee is still pretty much set up by the same members that were on the ethics committee um back then. So, maybe a couple new ones. Charlie's a new one, but anyways. Look at the drama already starting. First podcast, drama already starting. Uh, I appreciate everybody watching. Going through these meetings like this sometimes is rather boring, but how else am I going to let everybody know what's going on in these county commission meetings other than begging you to come out and attending the meetings by yourself? I feel that knowing what's going on with your local government, your tax money, and all those kinds of things are very important. That's just the way I look at it, and you don't have to care what the government spends your money on and that kind of thing, or what they're planning on doing, and all those kinds of things. It's not everybody's cup of tea, and I understand that. But it is important to me. And yeah, I know that going through these meetings are boring. I also know that this is my very first podcast in nearly a year, so I'm a little rusty. So give me some grace, okay? I appreciate it. All right. So back to the county commission meeting. We were talking about the new jail a little bit ago. Larry Lay is trying to push building the new jail on the middle school football field yet again. It's just a cycle, right? We go through this same stuff. It's been nearly a year, and here we are right back to talking about building the new jail on the middle school football field. And of course, Cindy Jesse, the head of the jail committee. It's amazing how he's the head of a lot of committees. But anyways, the head of the jail committee pushed back on that pretty hard. Larry said he talked to a bunch of the school board members and that kind of thing, and about possibly using the jail, and school board said, no, we ain't having that. Sorry. We ain't falling for that one. That's our property. We ain't giving it to you. So with that discussion, I got a little bit heated. Cindy Jesse made a motion, and Greg Dyer seconded the motion to go ahead and put a contract on that Lewis Hubs property. And I believe, I could be mistaken, but I believe that property is over off of Prospect or in that general area. So, but that did pass. That motion did pass. So they are going to put a contract on that property. There's some stipulations to that, but one of the things that irked my nerves, and y'all who've been following me for a long time know it irks my nerves, but they went right back. And I don't know if it's because, and I'm not saying I'm high and mighty or anything like that. I don't know if it's because folks just have haven't been around like myself, or I for a period of time that they've not had to worry about me calling them out. And again, folks, I told y'all this is going to be uncensored, unfiltered. I've not been calling them out on their bullshit, right? So they started back last night with the same BS 5-year plan that we have proved over and over and over again is nonsense. They use it as a crutch to be able to push this new jail through, right? And I'm not making the argument that we don't need a new jail. We need a new jail. I am not making that argument at this moment. We've covered that so much before. But stop using this 5-year plan lie to try to shove this down people's throat. I am so over it. Again, we've proved it over and over and over again. Yeah, there's a 5-year plan. Nonsense. Stop selling the people of this county a bunch of hogwash. That's just the way I look at it. Here's another part of that I thought was funny. So David Myers, the county attorney, right? Right? David Myers, things the county government needs him to, like write a contract, which David Myers said, hey, I've already started on this contract. I've already been working on it. But guess what? Sidney Jesse and Greg Dyer in this motion to start the contract wants to use a different attorney. A different attorney to write a contract, not the county attorney that is supposed to do that job, but a different attorney. And not only that, but we're going to pay them according to David Meyer. This attorney is probably going to cost or charge $300, $400, $500 an hour to write this contract that David Myers have already started writing. You see, folks, where I'm getting at? They don't care what they do with your money. All it is to a lot of those, not all of them, but all it is to a lot of those county attorney. Sorry, I got sidetracked reading the comments. A lot of these county commissioners don't care about spending money. It's just tax and spend, tax and spend, tax and spend. Be good stewards with the county's money. Be good steward with our tax money. Stop raising our taxes just because. And the argument is, well, we already have this money set aside, so we can use it for that. It's our tax money you set aside. I don't care if it was a grant from the federal government, if it was a grant from Bill Gates. I don't care where the money came from. The money originally came from a tax somewhere. Why do they want to use a different attorney? Well, apparently, they don't think David Myers was a good enough attorney to handle real estate contracts. And so they want to pay another another attorney that handles real estate contracts. If I am not mistaken, I am pretty daggone sure that David Meyer was the one that handled property tax things and, selling people's houses on the courthouse steps if you didn't pay your taxes. I'm also pretty sure that David Myers also owns a lot of property in Union County. I'm pretty sure he has a lot of experience with real estate transactions. So I don't know if there's a beef there. I don't know why, other than what they said. But David Myers didn't appear to be too happy about the situation. And I, again, don't agree with the spending money willy-nilly when you have a county attorney that can handle the contract perfectly fine. I just don't understand it. Myers Lane beside the middle school ball field, that's correct. And it does go back there. And it's a pretty large plot of land that they're looking at. I think it's 10, 11 acres plus. And that may be bigger. I'm pretty sure they said 10. And then an additional 2 acres will be donated, like I said, for the drug rehab. Maybe Myers not going along. I don't even. Look. David Myers got blindsided last night. He had no clue that they were going to use a different attorney. You could tell by his reaction. And again, he plain as day said numerous times, "I've already started on the contract," but they didn't care. They voted and passed this motion to use this other attorney to write this contract. And here's the kicker, folks. Like I said, this whole property that gotta get a drink. This whole property that county committee or the jail committee is trying to purchase, whether it's a good idea or not, I'm not arguing. But here's the problem. Like I said, it's a whole ball of wax. There's a whole lot of problems to it. Number one, it's in bankruptcy. They can't necessarily buy it because it's in bankruptcy, but it's supposed to come out of bankruptcy in the next 30 days, supposedly. And so therefore, they're going to go ahead and put a contract on it. That's one. And of course, like I said earlier, there's they call it the Lois Hubbs property. She doesn't own it. There's some other folks that own it. One of those being a minor. So they will have to go through the court system in order to purchase it because the one person is a minor. And it's just, like I said, it's just a whole lot of complicated and that kind of thing. It was brought up that there's even another property that could have bought, but they don't want to buy it. And again, I'll call a spade, right? It's Sidney Jesse. Sidney Jesse is the chair of the jail committee, and Sidney Jesse wants what Sidney Jesse wants. And he's going to dig in and he's going to push to get what he wants. The problem is, if you've followed county commission for the past, say, 2 cycles of commission, right? You can tell where the power struggle is. If you watch it, you go to the meetings, you'll watch it. And the last cycle, the one that held all the power was Larry Lay. Well, that's kind of switched now. And now it's kind of Sidney Jesse. And so that's where you see Larry Lay and Sidney Jesse butting heads all the time. Because, you know, it's the former king lost his throne, and now the newer one is trying to rise up and take over. And that's the way I look at it. Politics is a funny thing, folks. And do I agree with Sidney Jesse and the things that he does? No, I do not. I'll agree with him maybe 10% of the time. He's the head of your Republican Party here in Union County, right, folks? Keep all this in mind. He's the one that proposes tax increases the majority of the time. A conservative should be just that, a conservative, and not normally one that wants to keep raising taxes. That's one of my issues with with Cindy Jesse. And no, one of the biggest things that I am against is taxes and raising your taxes when you haven't gone through the process of trying to figure out a different way to raise funds for things you want to do other than raise your taxes. And so, you know, hey, they want to put jail next to middle school. That was one of the other arguments with building it on the football field, because now, folks, you remember that we had to have this brand new middle school built because the old middle school, I'm getting a little off track here, but we had to have this new middle school because the old middle school couldn't be used. It was too bad and needs to be tore down and blah, blah, blah. Well, here's the kicker. County government is going to take it over, and they were going to put offices in there, courthouse in there, and some new courtrooms. And well, school board said, folks, this is our property. We'll do what we want with it, not you. Because again, folks, the school system is a different entity than local government, if you don't know. So school said, that's our building. And so, well, Manorville Elementary is busting out of the seams, supposedly, and they're going to need a new school soon. So, what they're talking about is taking the 8th grade wing of the old middle school after, the new middle school gets open and all that. They're going to take the 8th grade wing at the old middle school, and they're going to use it for overflow classrooms for Manorville Elementary. And Larry Leg's argument, building the jail on the football field, came with some backlash that we don't want our kids across the street from a jail. Who wants to send their kids to school across the street from a jail? And so that comment got made. And so that goes back to the push for this Lowe's Hubs property and that kind of thing. So it's just a vicious cycle of what is best for the county or what's best for that particular person. Okay? Now, wink, wink. There you go. You figure that one out. All right. Let's get back on this meeting. Why not bulldoze the old middle school down once new one's built? See, that's what their county commission is going to talk to the school system about possibly doing just that. But again, one, that's going to be your tax money. Two, the school system gets to decide what they want to do with their property. So, so we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen with the old middle school, because again, Mayor Bailey, his big plan was to turn it into some courtrooms and county offices. So we'll have to see what happens after the new one's built. All right, so we get on down here. Let's skip that. One of the things that got brought up, Paulette Elementary will be paid off September. Might want to write it down on your calendar. Paulette Elementary will be paid off September of 2026. By the end of this year, Union County, and this fiscal year, not necessarily this year, but county year, I think it goes from July to July, I think, we'll have $8 million in fund balance. You asked me what fund balance is. Fund balance is basically the county's savings account. Right now, they have 5. So by the end of the year, we're going to have an extra $3 million in fund balance. And they want to brag about it. Boy, they want to brag about having all this money in fund balance. The county ain't never had this much money in fund balance. County even once upon a time had to take out a loan to pay a bill. It got said last night. And all that. And it's great to have a savings account. Great. But folks, hear me when I say this. Where'd that money come from? That money came from your pocket when they raised your property taxes. So if we have an extra $3 million to put in fund balance, why did we raise taxes? Well, it's only going to cost every citizen in Union County a little over $500 out of their pocket to be able to do this stuff. So it's okay. Pay your fair share. I believe the Boston Tea Party happened because a number of things, but one of the things was the taxation of tea from England. This country was founded on no taxes. But here we are. We raised our taxes. But it's okay because now Union County is going to have an extra $3 million in fund balance, and that is excellent. I am so happy that they did that. I am so happy that they can be so happy that they took money out of my family's pocket, your family's pocket, in order to have this extra $3 million in their piggy bank. Sorry for the sarcasm. Not really. So we get to the approved, disapprove surplus. And it got a little funny here because we had this surplus stuff, right? We got a vacuum cleaner, we got some computer stuff, filing cabinet, printers, whatever that we don't need anymore. We're going to surplus this stuff. And then it got added. Well, the sheriff has 9 vehicles. And if you drive down Maryville Highway, you can see these vehicles over there by the sheriff's department just sitting there. The sheriff has 9 vehicles that he wants to surplus and sell to Hancock County for $1 a piece. And also, the sheriff also wants to put in this surplus a canine, our dog, and he wants to sell this dog to the canine handler for $1, and that kind of thing. And oh my God, did that start something? And so then we had votes because we had to separate this stuff, right? We gotta take all this vacuum and all this stuff and make it one vote. And then we got to take this cars and put it on another vote. And we've got to take the dog and put it on another vote. Why? Because why? Because I don't know. I'm not even going to speculate. I was going to say something smart, but here we go. So, and some of y'all are going to disagree with me on this one, and whatever. But I'm going to explain why I have my opinion on this stuff, okay? And again, you know, we're never going to always agree on everything. Sometimes we're going to agree, sometimes we're not. So here's my thing. The surplus stuff, the computers, the vacuums, that passed like that. On the cars, one of our county commissioners had a conniption fit and said, no, we just sold 9 cars out of however many cars we were trying to sell. off of govdeals.com, and we got over $4,000 for these cars and yada, yada, yada. I get that. Let's not be greedy. Let's not be greedy, because I'm going to tell you why. You're getting $3 million extra and you fund balance by the end of the year, right? Or maybe it's by the end of 2026. I may be misspoken right there. But either way, y'all know, I even told him last night, y'all know that me and the sheriff do not get along. We don't agree on a lot of things. Mostly nothing. But these vehicles that are sitting up there on the hill, that he said some might run, most do not, all that. I don't care. So I'm not going to argue over $4,000 when, and there may be ulterior motives to it, I do not know, but I am not going to argue over $4,000 when the sheriff was trying to sell these or donate these. You can't just give it away. So that's why there's a dollar charge, right? To sell these vehicles to Hancock County for them to do with whatever they're going to do with them. Folks, do you all realize what Hancock County has been through? What they've lost? How much they've lost? If you remember correctly, the Biden administration just gave them a couple $100 to take care of losing everything. So explain to me why it's a bad thing that we're going to give these junk cars to Hancock County to try to help them in their time of need. Y'all seen all these donations go out, all these churches was taking food and all this stuff. Well, their police department, sheriff's department, their government needs help too. I did not see a problem with trying to give these cars to Hancock County. We're not doing anything with them. And who's to say if we did put them on Gov Deals that we were going to get another $4,000 out of 9 cars? We may got $900 out of 9 cars. I don't care. It's all about helping one another, right? That's what we try to do, is help one another. So if Union County had a major disaster, don't you think that these other counties around us would try to help us? So why is it such a bad thing that Union County tried to help somebody? And like I said, folks, y'all know my opinion on the sheriff. We have talked about it many times. But I don't think he was wrong in this one. I don't think he was wrong in trying to help Hancock County. They've dealt with the floods. They're still to this day continuing to deal with this disaster from these floods. There's still roads that they can't use. There's still roads that have fallen in. There's still bridges that have fallen in. There's still things that they're dealing with. They're still dealing with the loss of homes. They're still dealing with loss of businesses. They're still, so I don't understand. Well, anyways, so Larry Lay made the motion. Eddie seconded the motion to sell these cars to Hancock County. Well, it failed. So guess what? Sorry, Hancock County, Union County, County Commission just gave y'all the big middle finger. So sorry. Maybe we'll sell them on Gov Deal. Maybe we'll get $4,000 out of them. Or they'll just sit there and rot some more. I don't know what they're going to do with them now. But they couldn't do another vote on that because they on a situation on surplus, they can only do one vote. So now they got to wait till next month. Maybe they'll change their mind, and maybe they will agree to send them to Hancock County next month. Another, like I said, the other thing was the dog. Sidney Jesse made the motion. Kenny Moore seconded the motion to not surplus the dog, and that did pass. So we're not going to sell the dog. Danny Cook and Larry Lay were no votes. Everybody else voted to not sell the dog. Here's the problem, folks, and I know you're thinking, whatever, his girlfriend, yada yada. I'm not talking about any of that. I am talking about the dog, and I am talking about the cost of said dog to you and me that comes out of our tax money in our pocket. Okay, I don't care about sheriff, right? I don't care, other than he's the sheriff, and other than he was trying to do something with this dog. I don't care. I'm talking about the dog. So let's be clear on that. I'm not sticking up for anything else. I'm talking about the dog. So as it comes to the county sheriff's department, we have 3 canine dogs. The funding for said canines has decreased. And so he can only afford, and again, this is sheriff information, so he could be telling a big fat lie. I do not know, but I'm going off the information that I know. So the funding for the third canine has ceased. So he only has enough money for 2 canines, period, right? Unless we're going to raise taxes, our county commission gives him more money. The dog was purchased for $500. He wants to sell it for $1. The dog is 3 years old. So being a former law enforcement officer myself, I know a few things about canines and canine handling and this kind of thing, right? So number one, when you get a canine as a canine officer, you get, Cynthia, I agree with you. That's why I'm trying to stipulate I'm talking about the dog only, okay? So when a canine handler gets a dog, they get them as a puppy, and they go through training with them. And so then you get specific work that you do with this dog, because you got to remember, this is not a pet. A canine sheriff's department officer, canine, a dog, is not a pet. That's why I don't know anything about the handler quitting or anything like that. I do not know, Miss Smith. I'm only going by the information that came out last night. I don't know anything else about any of that, and that's why I'm trying to stipulate I'm only talking about the dog. But I know what you're getting at, and I agree. But talking about the dog, so so when you have a canine, again, it's not a pet. Y'all killing me tonight. It's not a pet. It is a officer. It is a, for lack of a better term, a piece of equipment for the sheriff's department. Okay, so you can't think. Oh Lord. Anyway, so here's the thing: they voted to not sell the dog. So here's what's going to happen. Number one, that officer does not work for the sheriff's department anymore, but has the dog. So therefore, said officer, former officer, can start charging. Here's where my issue is, folks. I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to stick up for the sheriff. I'm talking about the dog and what is right for the county taxpayers. So, number one, that former officer that has county property can start charging a boarding fee for said animal. Number two, guess who's paying for the dog food? These are things that I think about, right? Because I'm thinking about money. I'm thinking about what are we paying for it, right? So they voted not to sell it, so we have to continue feeding it. I think hell's freezing over right now, Marty. I think that's what's happening. But I kid, folks. I kid. So we got to pay for the dog food. We've got to we have to pay the vet bills. And if y'all been to the vet lately, you know it ain't cheap. And I'm sure it's going to cost more than $500 because Sidney Jesse made a statement that why ain't we selling the dog for $500 instead of $1? Again, he's got to get as much money as he can out of folks. But anyways, so there's all these other issues with the dog. Not to mention, I know some of y'all don't like the former officer or whatever. I'm talking canine officer, period. If I was still with KPD or if I was still with Anderson County and I was a back what? Never mind. You trying to get me. So if I was a canine officer and I got this dog and I've been through all the training and we've worked together and this dog's 3 years old. So therefore, it's been working for 3 years. And normally, typically, canine dog works typically 5 years. Okay. So we've got 2 more years, roughly, give or take, of life as a working piece of equipment, if you want to say that, on this dog's working career as a officer, right? And I believe that canines are officers of the law. Just like if you shoot one, you will get oh, y'all got y'all funny tonight. Anyway, so if you can't just take this animal and easily put it with another handler, right? It doesn't work that way. They are. I'm on my second one already. They are trained to follow the command of that one officer. So if you watch Cops or Live PD or anything like this, if you've got a canine handler out that they're tracking somebody or they're chasing somebody, you will hear them yelling at the other officers, get out of the way or get away or anything like that, right? No need to be sorry. I love it. So, because a canine, while it's working, will only listen to that one person. And it has been known that canine will actually attack an officer if that officer is in the way or if that officer is in the path of trying to get the bad guy, because all that animal knows is that might be a bad guy too. That's why it's very important to keep that canine attached to that handler. So that is my opinion of why we can't just take the dog and give it to somebody else. It will have to go through a long period of retraining that we will have to pay for in order to use it with another canine officer. And like I said, there is technically roughly 2 more years of active duty that this canine can use or do, right? So is it feasible to retrain this dog within 2 years? Possibly. Is it going to be easy? No. So, and again, you add all the other things. You're adding the dog food, the vet bills, the possible boarding fees and all this other stuff. Is it going to cost us more than what it's actually worth? Canines can be reassigned. I agree with that, but it takes a long period of retraining that it will have to go through, and it doesn't even mean that it will actually be retrained. And so you spend all this money, and the retraining fails, and you just threw the money away. And so, and I'm not talking about the handler. I am talking about the canine. So, just letting you know. So therefore, my opinion on that was I don't know that it was worth not selling the dog in the long run. Let me say that. And I don't care who they sell the dog to. Because at this point, it's just going to be a pet. It's not going to be a canine working officer anymore going down this path. We lost funding for the dog. We're going to be paying for the dog to be someone else. Can we not retire the dog? And so I really don't know anything about it. Yes, that's what the sheriff was requesting, was to retire the dog and sell it to its handler that no longer works for the sheriff's department for $1. You'll give them, that dog will pull you around the house and down the road and everywhere else there, Jeanette. I don't even know what kind of dog it is, to be honest with you. I was just speaking on the knowledge that I have as far as canines. If you understand the unfortunate thing that happened to Tucker Blakely, Ty's brother, Mayor Blakely's brother. He was training a canine. He was going to be a canine officer. And actually, it was going to be very shortly after, unfortunately, when he got shot. There is another officer who was actually just on Live PD that actually was using the canine that Tucker Blakely was starting to train with, right? But unfortunately, that happened, and so he had to go to the puppy, the dog that they were starting to train with, had to go to this other officer. That was easier done because it was still a small animal, still was going through training, so it wasn't like attached, right? And there's a little bit of difference, and we can debate it. I'm sure there's probably an ulterior motive, Marty. Get off my back. I'm just speaking on the animal. But it's only worth no. It's not necessarily worth $1, but the sheriff was just trying to retire it and give it to the handler. But you can't give things away in government, so he was going to charge $1 for said animal. They paid $500 for it. I could ask for more or whatever. Y'all awful today. Having trouble concentrating. No. If we're having problems with funding, why didn't he retire one of the older ones? That would be a question for said sheriff. Like I said, I was only speaking on the dog itself, not the handler. I was speaking for the animal. That's it. So don't get it twisted. Not sticking up for the sheriff or his girlfriend or whatever. Phew, Lord. Where was I? Let me get my paper back out here. So then, after all that mess, it kind of went into an executive session, and all that kind of good stuff. That executive session, I'm sure. I don't know what happened to my comments there. When we get a sheriff, hopefully we'll get a good one. 2026, Miss Cynthia, but from what I'm hearing, it's not going to be going so well because there's already some shenanigans going on. Our plans being made. Let me put it that way. But then they went to executive session. Executive session, I am sure, because it's secret, right? I'm sure it was talking about the constable situation and all that. After the executive session came down, we went back in, and there was a constable discussion. Wasn't really a constable discussion right off the bat. Sidney Jesse. I've been saying his name a lot in this podcast, and I don't like it. But anyway, Sidney Jesse made a motion to abolish the constables in Union County, and Kenny Moore, and he's been on my tongue a lot tonight too. Kenny Moore seconded, and every single county commissioner voted yes to abolish your county commissioner or your county constables. Look, y'all know my position on constables. Y'all know the fights that I've had for them and all this. I'm not going to rehash all that. Here's one of my issues, okay? I don't think, in my opinion, that one elected body should be able to abolish another elected body, okay? In my opinion. Beetlejuice looks better. Anyways, so that's number one. That's the issue I have, number one. I don't think so can we take a vote and do away with or can we get let's say just another elected body? Can we get Randy Turner is an elected officer? Can we get him to vote to abolish some of these county commissioners? We don't need to abolish the sheriff. We need to vote for a good sheriff. That's what we need to do. So I don't agree with a elected body abolishing another elected body. Period. And you can make the arguments of why constables are good. You can make the arguments of why constables are bad. I'm not doing that tonight because we've already been on here forever. What I'm going to say, now my dog's playing with his toys. Number two, I understand the constable situation's bad, not bad, whatever way you want to look at it. Again, I'm not debating that tonight. It's just funny how they did the vote. It just seemed kind of odd to me. And so what that means is they've got to vote again in February. Stop. So they've got to vote again in February because you can't abolish that office without having 2 consecutive votes. You've got to have 2/3 of county commission to vote to abolish said office and all this kind of good thing. And so if you want to keep them, go protest, call your county commission, whatever you want to do. If you don't want to keep them, do the same. That's the right of every citizen in this county and everybody in the whole United States of America is to do what you feel is right. And that's why, I do what I do because I feel like I'm doing what's right. And I'm doing my part. So again, I'm not debating whether we should keep them or we shouldn't tonight. But I didn't like how it went down. They didn't tell anybody that they were going to do it. I have a problem with that. They didn't announce that they were going to do it or even have a vote to abolish them. So the citizens of Union County didn't get any say. And that's the other issue I want to talk about tonight. If Union County government wanted to do such thing because the citizens of Union County voted for these constables to be in office, right? Should the citizens of Union County also not have the right to vote whether we should do away with them or not? That's the way I look at it. I think it should have been put on a ballot and we should have been able to vote on it as we did to put them in office. And so, yeah, they voted to abolish last night. They have to vote in February for the second vote. So on top of that, you got to understand, just because they vote to abolish that office doesn't mean that these current constables are done. These current constables are still in office until 2026. So you didn't really do anything other than say, okay, well, next election, we're just not going to vote for constables again. That's all you did. You didn't say, well, you want to argue about, oh, well, they cause lawsuits. They do this. They're a liability. All this stuff, you still have that until their term runs out. So that's hogwash. And all this kind of stuff. So, again, I'm not going to have that debate about where we should keep them or we should. I'm not doing that tonight. I'm just saying that we should have been able to vote on this as citizens of Union County. We should have been able to have our voices heard in Union County. Just like the property tax, when we should have been able to have our voices heard when they tried to do that or when they did do that. I'm just tired of Union County government doing what that particular person wants to do instead of listening to the citizens of this county. They do what benefits them, most of them, not all of them. They do what benefits them and their agenda instead of what is actually best for the citizens of this county. And to your point, Miss Ray, we only have 2 active ones, and 7 districts. Well, we don't even have a constable in all 7 districts because we have 1 district that nobody even ran in. So I get that. Also, you get you got to realize that some that got elected are actually plants by the government. And I won't call names, but they were actually plants for Union County government. And so keep that in mind too. And again, we should have had a chance to vote on that instead of Sidney Jesse deciding on his own that he didn't want constables anymore in Union County. And he's been trying to get rid of the constables in Union County for years now. So it's not nothing new. It doesn't surprise me that he was the one that brought it up and made the motion. We're talking about Miss Cynthia, a rigged election, and I have that proof if you want to discuss it. So I ain't going down that road. Where's that scab of a reporter for the scumbag newspaper? Don't they have to print stuff? She prints propaganda and lies. What are you talking about? I'm kidding. Maybe. The discussion about constables was on the agenda, but it was in the UNL, but you probably don't read it. It was a secret, just saying. It wasn't a secret. Well, number 1, it says constable discussion. It doesn't say constable vote to abolish. So to make that point clear, Miss, you want to argue with me? And I probably don't read it. I'd be honest with you. I don't read it because I'm a poor man and Union County likes to take all my money, and so I can't afford a newspaper. And kidding. And what I do follow is, on your little Facebook page for the UNL where it says headlines, I will occasionally click on that to see what your headlines are. And most of the time when I click on it, I get, when I click on your Facebook post and I click on it to see what your headlines are, I get, you can't see my phone. That's trying to show it to you. I get, hi, Adam, or hi, Jason. Please let us know how we can help. And so I don't even get to read your headlines. So there's that. So fix that, and then I'll know what's going on. Look at you trying to drag me in that conversation. Did you not watch the beginning of this podcast, Miss Smith? If not, go back and watch the beginning and then come back with your comment. Oh, Lord, y'all are awful tonight. What's wrong with y'all? Y'all ate your Wheaties before you came on this podcast. Anyways, so anybody else got any more comments? I was going to do some call-ins, but I don't guess we're going to do that tonight because we've been on here a long time. Join us next week. We'll be back 8 p.m. on Tuesday, and we'll have maybe a special guest or who knows? We have missed you. Indoors too long with the flu. You had the flu indoors too long? You better not have the flu. I've missed being here. I've missed the podcast. I've missed going to the county commission meetings. Like I said, beginning of the podcast, 2024 wasn't a good year for me. Again, my podcast is dedicated to my mom, who passed away in July. That was heartbreaking. She was in the hospital for weeks, in the ICU and everything, and I did not leave. I stayed there in the hospital. I slept on a bench. I stayed 24/7. My mom was my world. She was my rock. She had my back, and I miss her dearly, like I said. And so this podcast is dedicated to her memory. What happened to her should never happened. The hospital killed her. The doctors killed her, and I'll believe that to my dying day. If I could show you pictures of what she went through, and when I left her in the emergency room, and she was fine. She ate spaghetti for dinner, and she was joking with us and picking on us like she always did. And the next day she had her simple procedure done, and they poked a hole in her heart, and it was downhill after that. And when I walked her, and I've got on video, I walked her from the operating room all the way to the helicopter, because I had to fly her to a different hospital, because Tenova North doesn't do heart issues. They'll do minor stuff, but they don't do major things. And so they flew her to Turkey Creek, but I walked her all the way to the helicopter. And the very last words I ever heard my mom say here on earth was, "I'm going to throw up." She said that as they were loading her on the helicopter. And she said that, and the medics were saying, "You going to throw up?" And they got a bag, and she raised up and threw up in the bag. And that was the last time I really saw my mom alive, other than just laying in bed, and all that kind of stuff. But maybe one day I'll go more into that. But there were several things that happened that should have never happened. They poked a hole in her heart. They, like I said, the other hospital had her on medication she was allergic to, and just a lot of other things that happened. They treated her horribly. I can go on and on and on about that. Maybe that'd be a whole nother podcast. But maybe it will be another podcast, because I think that people need to talk to, write to, call their state senators and all those folks and demand change. Because in Tennessee, the law, like malpractice, wrongful death, those kinds of, against a medical doctor or a hospital and all that, are written to protect the doctors, not the patients. And that's what I've been dealing with. I've been trying to find an attorney to take my mother's case since everything happened. Even before she passed away, I was trying to get, not because I want money, because I'm not money hungry, but because I want justice done for my mother. And whether that's, civilly or what have you, I want justice done for my mother. And before she passed away, I promised her that I will not ever give up the fight of trying to get justice for her. And I've talked to some state senators. I've talked to Dennis Powers. And Dennis Powers agrees with me, but it takes more than just one. So I've talked to several other ones, but it's just how it's set up, because we've got to protect the doctors and instead of the citizens, and I don't agree with that. And it was wrong, and I understand that the hole in her heart is a possible thing with what she had done, but everything else wasn't. And Jeanette, I called the attorney that you asked or gave me the number for, and I didn't get anywhere. And the problem is, it costs so much money to fight these cases. It costs a lot of money, a lot of time, and it was so bad. I'd go into my mom's room, and she would have. Sorry if this is graphic, but she would have blood running down her face and down her neck, and because my mom had to have a nurse in the room 24 hours a day. And so I'd throw a fit, because why are they treating my mother like this? And you're right there. And so they would clean her up and what have you. And, stuff like that just irked my nerves. And I would have conversations with these nurses and doctors and everybody would agree. And they would tell me, this was our fault. We did this to your mom. She would not be in this position if we didn't poke the hole in her heart, and we didn't do this, we didn't do that. This is our fault. They would tell me this constantly. Actually, if you're familiar with Turkey Creek Hospital, they have a little atrium thing there in the middle of the building. And I actually was down there because I prayed a lot down there and all this kind of stuff. And I was down there, and there was a doctor that actually was in the surgery room when my mom landed, and he was talking to me, and he said, "I'll tell you this off the record." He said that I can't say it on the record, but it's our fault. And he said, "I feel so bad that this has happened. This was our fault. We did this to your mother." And we had a pretty long conversation about it. But again, the laws in Tennessee protect the doctors and all this kind of thing, and not the patients. And I think that needs to be changed. And the other kicker to that is you only have a year to file a lawsuit for medical malpractice or wrongful death from the time that it happened, not time she passed away, but the time that whatever happened. And so they put you on such a time crunch to get everything done. Not only that, you cannot file a lawsuit. You can't even turn in the paperwork to file a lawsuit unless you have another doctor write out a statement and say this was wrong. So you can't even file a lawsuit until you get a doctor to write a statement. And I don't agree with that either. It's set up so that you, the patient, or you, the family of a patient, fail unless you just get lucky. And another part, my mother was older and that kind of thing. And that's the other thing. If you're like, let's say it was a 20-year-old, but you get an attorney to take a case like that because there's more money. But because my mother was older, you're not going to get as much money because that person, no matter how old they are, isn't worth as much in Tennessee. Tennessee actually has a cap on what you are worth. If you didn't know, a cap on what you are worth depending on how old you are. And to me, my mother was irreplaceable and worth everything and that kind of thing. So again, long story short, that's what happened. And again, I'm not money hungry or anything like that. I just want justice for what happened to my mom. But anyways, thanks for everybody saying that. About the condolences and all that kind of thing. Yes, the next election is in 2026, so you probably won't really know who's running till probably about, if I had to guess, April or May of 2026 before you start picking up petitions and stuff like that. But there you go. Thank you very much for watching this very first episode of the Dirt Podcast. Sorry for those of you who thought it was boring. I thought it was pretty interesting, especially the longer we went on. Thank you for joining us tonight. Have a good night. We'll see you next Tuesday, 8 p.m. And stay tuned. Don't just click off yet because you're going to hear my little ending song here as soon as I hit this button. Thanks for joining us tonight once again. We appreciate you. Love you, mean it. Have a good night. I'll pray for you. You pray for me. And thank you and God bless.
You just heard The Dirt, digging to the bottom of every situation to get the truth with your host, Jason Mills. Tune in next week at the same time for another Dirt broadcast.